Yo ho! Yeah, that's a good start.
I'm ready. I'm ready, guys. Welcome to the Backyard Blitz, everybody. This is live. We are back in action. Excuse my nerves a little bit here. I am making my debut as the host of the Backyard Blitz. I finally got the producers to give me the nod, and tonight will be a night that we all remember, baby. Welcome back. We had a week off. All right, we're back. We're ready to talk football. We got a lot more going on too. We're going to dive into it. Profit, as always, great to see you. Coach Rick, as always, great to see you. Make sure you follow this guy, Coach R. Simmons, 2715 on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter, Coach Daily 12, and make sure you get Profit over there at his email address because he doesn't really do social media. So, boys, great to see you. How you been? I'm excited to get this thing going. So let's dive right into it. How was your week, Rick?
So far it's been okay. It seems like it's moving pretty slow. The weather is kind of iffy as usual in Florida, but other than that, been pretty good.
What do you got? What kind of weather are you dealing with right now?
So
are you still in hurricane season?
That's the thing. I don't know. Sunday it was hot and sunny. Monday it was Monday it actually rained. Tuesday it was hot and sunny, and then the day it was like on and off with rain. And tomorrow I don't know what's gonna come.
I'll tell you what, we are today was like 82. Tomorrow's supposed to be 87, and Friday's supposed to be 87. So right before I hopped on, I kicked on the air conditioning because I don't play that game, man. So the AC is gone. Mark the date, April 12th. It's an early start for us for the air conditioner, but listen, I can't be dealing with those hot temperatures in the house. So I can relate with you there, Rick. Profit, what's going on down in the world of volunteer land?
Well, by the looks of that banner behind Slick Rick, it's always hurricane season there in Florida. Hey, let me read you something. Let me read you guys something real quick, okay? BP actually sent me a text. I'll read it to you real quick. It says, "Hey, Prophet, don't read this until you're on the show. Everybody thinks I'm out working, but in reality, me and a couple of my 49er buddies are in Arizona trying to get D-Hop to sign with the 49ers. How it's going to happen, I'm not sure, but have a great show." So.
PT's out there lobbying with the 49er faithful trying to get Hopkins, is what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what he told me. I don't know. I can only go by what he said.
I don't doubt it, Prophet, because let's we don't want to talk ill will about those who aren't here with us, but let's just talk about his fandom a little bit. And sometimes it can be off the cuff and a little out of control. So I don't put it past him. Arizona's a nice place. I see him, interacting on Twitter with all his 49er cronies. I think if we could turn this thing into a 49er podcast, he might be in all his glory. But by the, my dead body is what I say to that. So
that's not happening. Not tonight, anyhow.
No, definitely not tonight.
So I'm having a great. My week started out really crazy. So I'll try and make this quick. I know we got a lot to cover, okay, but. I took Mrs. Profit on our weekly jaunt to the casino on Monday, and I sit down at the table, and there's these two middle-aged women sitting there talking back and forth to each other and talking about how ugly their husbands are. And I'm listening in, because I think it's kind of comical and all. And the one said the other, she says, I don't know how you deal with that guy. And the blonde says, "Oh, it's nothing that a six-pack and a light switch can't handle." And, they're going back and forth. I had to ask to see pictures of their husbands. I was so intrigued. And they took their phones out and they showed them to me, and I looked and I said, you know what? They look like they could be stars in a Western movie if they each had a couple of more legs. And with that, man, the crap hit the fan. We can talk about our husbands, but don't you talk about it. And yeah, they had security at the table, and yeah,
Oh
they
man.
almost asked me to leave. But
Yeah. Did
yeah,
you walk out a winner?
after all was said and done, I walked out with 12 dimes, so I was happy.
There you go. That's never a bad day at the old casino there. And we do got a lot to cover tonight, Prophet. You're right. And we're going to kind of stray away from not too far away from the normal, but a little bit different than, the style that we go to, because there's no secret that BP is our analytics guy, very stat driven, numbers guy, knowledgeable. We're here to keep it light. I can't compete with that, so I'm going to keep it light. And there was some stuff on the last show that we were looking forward to. Prophet, you had mentioned your big Super Bowl weekend was WrestleMania.
Oh, absolutely.
Did you enjoy that? Was there any feedback that you got from the show? What did you think about the show? And did you enjoy the whole presentation down there in where were they?
They were SoFi out in LA.
SoFi, right?
It was like WrestleMania Hollywood or something like that.
Yeah,
oh yeah, WrestleMania
Hollywood, exactly. Yeah. Nah, I mean, all in all, it was a great show. The highlights in my mind, anyhow, Saturday was the Rhea Ripley Charlotte Flair match. I mean, them two ladies, man, they put on a show.
Yeah, they did. It was a great show.
But then on the flip side of it, I thought the 6-woman tag match was the worst part of it. They brought a couple of Hall of Famers in, and they just couldn't hang with the young girls. But I mean, yeah, like I said, all in all, it was a great show. Sunday, probably the low light was Brock Lesnar and the Nigerian Giant. Yeah,
Omos.
Yeah, and the match lasted like 5 minutes.
Back out?
Yeah, they were. Brock Lesnar was in it. It was a good weekend. It was a really good weekend of wrestling. I thought Saturday night was absolutely electric. Was awesome. Sunday night was kind of meh, and then and we'll touch on it a little bit. And we're not a wrestling podcast, but we could talk about it a little bit tonight because I'm in charge. Anyway, so the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania traditionally is like the
craziest.
Yeah, is usually the best Raw of the year, and it was a letdown. But I want to talk more about and this is it's a wrestling comment, but it's more of a business comment. Now, Vince McMahon was rumored to be in control of the Raw after WrestleMania. For those of you who don't know, Vince McMahon hasn't been around in a few months because he's involved in a scandal. WWE recently sold and merged to UFC, and they're becoming one mega sports combat company. And after that was announced, I guess Vince McMahon decided that he was going to come back and start running things in WWE again. My question is, he was out for a reason. He was out for sexual misconduct allegations and hush money, paying millions of dollars to people to keep it under wraps. And in what business world can you just forget that ever happened and return to work like nothing ever happened?
Well, from what I'm saying, okay, WWE sold it, and hey BP, I didn't miss you there, buddy. Kittle's skit was a pretty good one. Yeah, he had to get his 49er in there.
Yeah, I forgot about that actually. Kittle was on WrestleMania. He did jump the guardrail and was involved in WrestleMania, which was pretty funny.
Yeah, well, I mean, WWE sold over the weekend to a company called Endeavor, and they're the owners of the UFC, and they kept him on $5 million a year for 2 years, but he had to sign a clause. There's clauses in his contract where if he gets in any trouble whatsoever, that he's gone right away.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I don't know. He's been with it since pretty much since the inception. He's out of touch, I think, personally, and all these allegations that have come out recently. I don't doubt any of them. And I don't think that he belongs in any kind of power or control of the company. But we'll leave it at that. We'll move on. We got a couple other non-football topics in the sports world that I want to touch on that have been kind of dominating headlines recently, and none bigger than let's say the fiasco, not the fiasco, but the story, the drama that surrounds the LSU women's basketball team and the Iowa Hawkeyes women's basketball team that, played in the national title game. A lot of scrutiny at the end of that game with the way, I believe Angela Reese is her name, with the way she handled herself. There's a lot of back and forth going on with that. The Iowa girl had done the same kind of gesture in a previous game, but it wasn't to the same extent. I know that, emotions are high. This is a hot topic. It's a touchy topic, but we're going to touch on it, man. I want to talk about it. Like I said, we're diving into some different stuff tonight. So, Rick, I know you got big opinions on this, man. What did you think about this whole situation? And do you think it's kind of blown out of proportion, or what? Just give us your thoughts on it.
Me personally, I feel like they blew the whole situation out of proportion. Number one, I've seen a lot of people talk about it, and for whatever reason, it's like when it comes to male sports, the way we express ourselves, it's a positive, and it's kind of like they limit women to be able to express themselves in the same manner. The whole "you can't see me" gesture, I didn't see anything wrong with it from either. No matter if it lasted 5 seconds longer than the other one. At the end of the day, to me in basketball, when you do something like that, it's basically saying like, hey, heat check. Like, you can't stop me. It is what it is. If you don't want me to talk trash or you don't want me to be confident in myself, then stop me. I don't really like the way the media and other people, like, just in the entertainment world, has kind of like turned into like a race type deal. Because I've seen interviews from both girls, and both of them, they've been playing against each other since high school, like whether it was AAU ball or whatever, and they both respect each other's game a lot. So it's kind of like you're not really hearing too much about negative situations between the two. It's more of media, more of commentators, more of people that don't even have anything to do with them too. Like I don't like the way people are trying to turn the whole narrative about the situation.
Prophet, you look like you got something to say, so let's see what you got to say about it. I got some opinions on it too, but I'll let you go first.
No, I was just going to ask, Slick, isn't that the way it always is, though, with the media? I mean, their whole job is to get people in an uproar, no matter what the story is that we're talking about.
Oh, for sure,
and it's crazy, Now, let me ask you, Slick, what was the final score of that game? Do you remember?
It was 102. It was like 102 to 85 or something like
that. Could she see her? I mean, they spanked them.
Yeah, they did, and it wasn't even close. But it was. Give credit where credit's due, man. It was the most watched event. It had like 9.2 million views, which was more than like the NBA All-Star Game. Something. Like a lot. This championship game dominated ratings for that night, and really put to bed some male sports. My take on the whole thing. Okay, Clark girl from Iowa, she did it. She didn't do it to anybody, but she made the gesture. Was it as long and drawn out and ridiculous as the LSU player? No, but again, like Rick said, that's the heat of the battle. I didn't mind so much the gestures that were being made, because that stuff happens in sports. And just like you said, Rick, and we didn't talk about this before the show, we came on and we went right into it. So for us to be agreeing basically so heavily is kind of a surprise to me. But if this was a male sport, it wouldn't have been a discussion. My problem with ESPN, and we go back to the media aspect of this, my problem lies with ESPN in particular highlighting, I can't think of the word, but highlighting this kind of behavior among the two. Now, when they're putting up memes about Reese saying she's so cold and holding her face or holding her hand over her face, and they got the picture, or you can't see her or something like that, I think we're sending a poor message to our youth. We are promoting poor sportsmanship because it was, I guess if you want to look at it that way, it was gamesmanship, but it was poor sportsmanship. We're promoting that on a national level. You got ESPN, who's the biggest sports broadcasting company in the world, and they're putting this kind of behavior on a pedestal for everybody to see. Now, the only thing you're going to see is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds running around a basketball court or running around a soccer field or a football field going like this. You can't see, and that's not a trend that we want to get into, man. That's not what we want to teach our kids. That's not how we want to play the game. And that's where my problem laid with it was, okay, it happened. These two are fierce competitors. They're adults, but what kind of precedent are we setting for the younger generation? And the powers that be, being ESPN and more media companies who put this girl from LSU on a pedestal and praise this kind of behavior, we're not setting a good example for youth. And that's where I stand on it.
I get what you're saying. I like if they did it for male, if it were two males and they made the situation the same, I would 100% agree with you. The reason why I don't really have an issue with it is because I feel like both of them, and to correct you, Clark actually did do that to a player from Louisville. But it doesn't, like, I don't care about it's not a right or wrong for me. I feel like both of them, by them doing that and them expressing themselves, and the fact that they really got buckets throughout the whole tournament, because even though Iowa lost, Clark still ended up with like 30 plus. So like they got buckets. They're good at what they do. I feel like they're tearing down barriers for like young females who are in the sport, who are feel like they want to express themselves in any way.
The numbers, the proofs in the viewership with that. You're 100% right.
The same way,
tearing down barriers.
The same way that men do, and not be apologetic or not be scared to do so, or feel like they're going to get judged by expressing themselves by showing their emotion. Like, that's how I took it. That's how I'm looking at it. Like, I don't like, I just, like I said, it's not a negative for me. Like, okay. I'm a trash talker. I might not get to the point to where you might want to fight me, or we might get in a brawl or anything. But like, if I'm getting buckets or I'm doing you on the field, I want you to talk back to me. Like, let's compete.
Yeah. And that's why you see BP in the comments. Like, I get it, but it's all over the sports world. You two are cut from the same cloth. I'm different, man. You guys are out there before the game, trash talking, yelling, screaming. Yeah, I remember BP yelling that stupid from what's that movie? Hector or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. He'll put it in the comments. Some stupid thing. I'm like, dude, enough. And I'm just sitting here like quiet. I got my headphones on. I'm bouncing a little bit, and I'm just in my zone, man. And that's how I work, and that's how I roll. But like I said, I just didn't like the fact that we were putting so much spotlight on the poor sportsmanship aspect of it. Call it what you want. I think at the end of the day, it's in bad taste.
See, I don't agree with that. I mean, on the court, I don't think it was in bad taste. You know, she does it, and boom, the game goes on. What's in bad taste is the freaking media having to broadcast it, 100,000 times to make it something that
it's not. That's
about.
What I'm saying.
Yeah, like, we're talking about it.
Well, the girl from Iowa even came out and said, like, it's over. Like, I'm not thinking nothing of it. Like, she's a great competitor.
Like,
blah,
both
blah, blah.
of them respect it. Both of them have been on interviews saying that they respect each other's game. They've been respecting each other's game since high school. I think both of them played in like the McDonald's All-American game against each other, like AAU ball. Like, so it's no bad blood between any of them. Right. Like OG said, like, it's the media, and I understand that's their job, but like, it's just like, just treat it for what it is.
I agree. Yeah. The last point I want to make about this, and we'll move on to the next thing. Shaq made a stupid comment, man. And I like Shaq, but Shaq says that this Reese girl is the best athlete to come out of LSU in LSU history.
Was he speaking just for women's basketball or in general?
No, male or female.
Yeah, I don't.
Come on, man.
I don't know about that one. I mean, they have a personal relationship. I'm just thinking
of Jefferson right off the top of my head. You got Joe
Burrow.
Like, come on, man. That's
it's a bunch of them.
That's ridiculous, Shaq.
You got Shaq. He's one of them.
He is
skinny
right?
Shaq,
right. Skinny.
See,
but good.
I'm going to do this, okay? Because I went the other way with that story. I put all my notes together for Iowa being invited to the White House also.
No, I want to touch on that. I want to touch on that too. You can touch on that too.
I mean, that was ridiculous. Jill Biden's an idiot, but so was her husband. So let's move on.
That situation.
I don't want to touch on that. Anyway, another huge sporting event that happened over this past week. Yeah, over this past week. Can you let me talk, Prophet? Are you hosting the show or am I hosting the show?
I'm sorry, you were.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I didn't answer. Anyway, the Masters, man, always a great historical tournament down in Augusta. Action-packed weekend for golf. Like I didn't watch a whole lot of it, but there were so many storylines that came out of it. First of all, did you happen to see the tree that fell? Yeah, we're not sponsored. Why don't you put that down, please?
You up. Let's have
a party. Anyway, did you guys happen to see the tree that fell down at the Masters?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
No, I didn't get it. I was out of town, so I didn't really get a chance to see it.
I seen one of the the 17th hole. There was three huge trees that fell down, and luckily nobody got injured. I mean, I don't know how it was a pretty crazy clip if you go back and watch it. But I want to talk about real quick, and I don't want to spend as much time on this as we did the LSU thing, but the Masters and the PGA Tour is competing now with this Live Tour, and they're bitter, hated enemies, and Live players aren't allowed to compete at PGA events, but for the Masters, since it's its own separate entity, these Live players were allowed to participate, and most of these Live players were PGA players previously, and they were pretty good, most of them. What do you guys think about two competing industries not being able to, or two of the same industries pretty much not being able to coincide and work together and allow fair competition amongst each other? I think competition kind of breeds success, in my opinion, and if you're not gonna welcome the competition and you're gonna shut them out completely, then I think you're losing out on a market there that could help you in the long run. Do you guys have any opinion on that? And can you think of any any examples of it happening in other sports?
Absolutely.
We'll go with you first.
Yeah, I can't think of any other sports, but I agree with you. The fact that those men on both ends, there's such high successful business guys, you know what I'm saying? I feel like somebody should have been able to get at the round table and kind of figure something out.
No, I agree, and I agree, and
I don't get why they can't. Maybe it's too many egos in the room. I don't know.
I believe that the PGA Tour has a notorious history of not budging for anything, and that's what's going on right now. It's their way or the highway, and they're losing out on a lot of great opportunities. Now, like I said, the Masters is its own separate entity, so all the players were allowed to compete. But at the end of the day, man, it's something that I think they're missing out on. Profit. What do you think?
Well, you see, the PGA Tour does not govern the Masters, the Open, the U.S. Open, and one other one.
All the majors, whatever the majors are. Right?
Okay, so
all majors.
That's why they were able to play. Me personally, I don't think they should have been allowed to play. I mean, these guys are playing over in Saudi Arabia. They're getting paid millions and millions.
In Saudi Arabia.
Huh?
They're not playing in Saudi Arabia. They're playing with Saudi Arabia-backed owners. They're playing all over the country, just like the PGA.
Okay, so, but they're playing.
The Saudis own
the contract, though.
Right.
They are under
Saudis
contract.
are paying them.
It's not. you don't have to go out and win to get your $10 million like you do in the PGA.
Right.
So no,
So
I don't.
why wouldn't you do that? If you're like a guy like Phil Mickelson, who's a little bit older on the back end of his career, why wouldn't you go out and make the most money, most guaranteed money possible?
I don't see there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not arguing that point, but that's your bed that you made, so you got to lay in it. You shouldn't be allowed to come and play in in the Masters and all. You chose to play for them. I mean, I liken it to the USFL from years ago. Herschel Walker couldn't play for the New Jersey Generals and the Dallas Cowboys at the same time. Jim Kelly couldn't play for the NFL and the USFL. They were under contract. They shouldn't have been allowed.
I get that part.
I hear you.
You know?
I don't know. I'm all about most entertaining factor, and I think having them both available would be the most entertaining aspect. One other thing I want to touch on in the Masters and in golf in general, man, my favorite golfer, Tiger Woods, like hands down. Like he's been my favorite golfer since he was young. He had to withdraw, man. He was in obvious pain. You can see him almost collapse on the course. It comes out later. He was in a serious car accident where he almost had his legs amputated less than 2 years ago. It comes out later that on the course, he had a screw in his leg puncture his skin because it came undone from like whatever surgery or whatever he had, and he's out there playing golf on a leg where he's got a bolt coming out of his leg. I feel bad because I grew up watching Tiger, and the greatest, he could be the greatest ever or whatever. But do you guys have any opinions on his future real quick? And like, if you think he's done, or do you think he's still got a couple majors left in, or a couple wins left in him to get to that record, or what do you think?
Me personally, with Tiger, I feel like he's definitely one of the greats, one of the GOATs in his sport. I just feel like you can't count him out, because I'm not going to lie, this time around, after he got in a car accident and everything else that happened, I didn't think he was going to make a comeback this time.
I didn't think so either.
And he found a way. And when he got back healthy, he had started playing good golf again. Like it wasn't how it was when he was in his early 20s, but for his age and everything that he had been through, he was coming back into his own kind of. So I mean, I don't know. It possibly could be, but then again, he might get it fixed and do whatever he needs to do, and he might come back and surprise us.
Larry, I agree with you. Like I enjoy watching golf as it is, but when Tiger's playing, I will tune in specifically to make sure I watch him, and he is good for viewership. Prophet, you got any thoughts on it before we move on here?
Yeah, as far as majors are concerned, I think Tiger's done. But wins, he could still possibly win a couple of tournaments. Like the week after the majors, most of the big guys don't play. So, he's obviously not going to play this weekend because he's hurt. But there's going to be a time where he's going to be in a mix with, not all the top guns, and he could win. I mean, golf's a game that, you get hot for a couple of days and you can win.
Right.
But playing against the top dogs, I just don't think he has it anymore. I mean, yeah, call him a GOAT. I mean, he's up there for sure, but he doesn't have the same game.
He's top three in my opinion. Anyway, moving on. So that was fun to kind of dive into some sports news that wasn't all NFL like we're usually doing. And we got a lot coming up NFL wise. We got a lot to talk about tonight. NFL wise, we got the draft coming up in a couple weeks. We've had a lot of NFL news. Let's just get right into it. I mean, I think the big headline over the couple days was this one, and we're talking about Odell Beckam going to the Ravens, and you get a guy coming in on a 1-year deal who, you're making anywhere from $15 to $18 million a year, or for the year. We've talked a lot about the Ravens over the past couple of weeks on this show from a Lamar Jackson standpoint. You add a piece to this to to the arsenal on offense from a Ravens standpoint, and it makes you wonder: are they doing this to keep Lamar Jackson around, or are they doing this, and Lamar kind of feels some type of way about it? Like, if you're going to pay Beckham this money for 1 year, where's my bag? And Ricky, what do you think about the signing for the Ravens? Is it a good move for them? Is it a good move for Lamar? And does it help keep him in Baltimore? What do you say?
Me personally, I think it's a good move for the Ravens in general. You definitely can look at it from both standpoints. From what you just said, you can look at it as if they're rebuilding or building for Lamar. And you can also look at it as if they're starting to like put pieces in together as if they're going to move forward. Me personally, I think it's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that's going on between the front office and Harbaugh. And the reason why I say that is because when he was doing that interview the same time when Lamar Jackson tweeted out whatever, he just seemed like he was real sure about whatever it takes. Like, we're going to figure it out. Like, Lamar Jackson is going to be our quarterback. Like, he sounded like he was sure. Yeah. So hopefully that's what's going on. He's talking with management and everybody behind closed doors about stuff that we have no clue about, and they're starting to try to put pieces together to keep him and try to figure out something to keep Lamar. If not, I don't know what the Ravens are
now does. Listen, here we go. You got Odell Beckham, Rashad Bateman, Nelson Aguilar, and James Prochet II. Yeah. That is the depth chart for the Ravens wide receivers. Does Beckham come in and automatically take that number one? And we always talk about it. You need a solid number one. Like, we know what he was. Is he still the guy that he was? And does he come in and automatically elevate that receiving room? Or what do you think about that, Rick?
I think he'll elevate the receiving room as far as being a vet, as far as experience. Coming in out the gate, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say that he won't, because Bateman's coming back from a knee injury as well. Mm-hmm. If Bateman had finished the whole season last year healthy, I would say Bateman would be the number one coming in. And once Odell gets fine-tuned with everything as far as like the system, how everything runs, I could see him kind of doing what he did with the Rams late, where he was kind of like finding his way. And then once he got in the groove of things, he started becoming like the main target. But like I said, the fact that Bateman's just coming back from a knee injury as well is kind of hard. Aguilar and how do you say his name?
Prochet from SMU. Whatever it is.
Yeah. I don't see them being number ones. Like, right. They're definitely role guys.
They're not going to be number ones, but I don't even, they're not even number twos.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, like, I just don't know about, if Beckham can get back to form. If he can, that's great. If not, they're still in a little bit of receiver trouble, in my opinion. Prophet, man, what do you got to say about this whole Beckham situation? And is it good for Lamar? Is it bad for Lamar? Is it good for the Ravens? Is it bad for the Ravens? What say you?
Well, I think it's a total travesty myself. Okay. I really don't know what the hell's going on with the Ravens. They won't give their top quarterback the money. And I made the point a couple of weeks ago that it might be because he hasn't played a full season in a couple of games, in a couple of years, I'm sorry. But yet they turn around and they give Beckham, who had 2 ACLs in the last 3 years, the top free agency money of wide receivers in the whole league. Like, what are they doing here? Like, if it's one or not, and there's no guarantee that Beckham is going to come back from, okay, he looked good in his workouts and all, but like we talked about on the show, it's easy to throw, it's easy to catch with nobody on top of you. I just don't know. I'm not sure what the Ravens are doing.
And I think you made a great point. You kind of backtracked on what you said a couple weeks ago. The reason they might not be giving Lamar the money that he deserves or might deserve is because he can't play a full season. That goes by the wayside now with Ravens management, because you just gave Beckham a huge contract, and the dude hasn't played or has had 2 ACLs in the last 3 years. So what is going on in Baltimore? My opinion on it is, I think it's an attempt to try and keep Lamar. Like I said, I'm in the mindset, and I've been in the mindset all offseason that Lamar is not going anywhere. He's playing for the Ravens this year, and then they'll kind of reevaluate after the season. But in order to keep him somewhat happy, you got to put some pieces around, and I think that's what the Ravens are trying to do. Beckham was probably the biggest name out there, other than maybe Hopkins, who is on the trade block or could be traded. But other than that, like I said, they're trying to do what they can to make this guy happy. And is it going to be enough? I don't know.
Are they? I mean,
this little one.
If I'm Lamar Jackson and I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, okay, you guys ain't giving me money because I haven't played a full year in a couple of years. But then you turn around and you make this guy the highest free agent. Hey, it's great. I'm glad you brought somebody in for me, but what are you doing about me?
Yeah, I'm with you there. We'll move on to the next thing here, and we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, and we've talked about it a few times here in the offseason so far, and that is the situation regarding Aaron Rodgers and the waiting game that they're playing over in Green Bay. Rodgers, and I said it a month ago. I said this guy's going on national media saying that he's going to play for the Jets, and he's got no control over it. And now here we are a month later, and he's still sitting in Green Bay. And what's going to happen with the Rodgers saga? Do you think he winds up stays in Green Bay, or is he going to be playing somewhere else? Prophet, let's start with you.
No, I think he ends up in New York, but I don't know. I mean, this is really getting to be, a crazy situation here, because the Jets, if they don't get Rodgers before the draft, they're going to have to start thinking about doing something a couple of days before the draft to, try and get a quarterback. And, Green Bay, it doesn't matter, because they're looking forward to moving ahead with Jordan Love one way or the other. If Rodgers is not going to stay, if they don't trade Rodgers, he's going to retire. He's not going to play in Green Bay. So, the Green Bay's not affected by this. Green Bay wants as much as they possibly can. The Jets don't want to give up as much as Green Bay wants, because they don't know if they're only getting this guy for 1 year.
Ricky, what do you got, man? Do you think Rodgers ends up in somewhere else, or do you think he plays for Green Bay this year?
Yeah, I agree with OG. I think he'll eventually get to New York. I think it's just another one of those situations where it's a lot of negotiating and talking behind closed doors and stuff that we just don't have any type of clue about.
Yeah, perfect, Joe.
And I think once they figure out whatever they need to figure out, it's going to surprise a lot of us. I think they're going to give him a deal, like, seriously.
Dude, do you think the Jets are going to give him a deal?
Yeah, I think they're going to give him a deal to make us be like, really?
Could it be a trade? Could it be a draft night trade? Like, is that something that's on the table here? Or like,
I never thought about that, but it could be a possibility.
I mean, you think about it. You can't. You say they're going to give him a deal, but the only deal they can give him is he's not a free agent. So the only deal they can give him is what they're going to give. What they're going to give what they're willing to give the Packers for him.
Yeah, you're right about that.
So it's going to be a trade of some sort, I would have to imagine, right? So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Me personally, I agree with Prophet. I think if he doesn't play if he doesn't play anywhere else, he's retiring, because he ain't playing for the
Packers.
The Packers
this year.
Right.
So, I mean, Larry, if he plays for anybody, it'll be the Jets. Other than that, I don't see him playing in Green Bay. I agree.
That's what the Jets are doing. The Jets are doing everything they can to make it good for him to come there. I mean, they got Aaron Wilson. They picked up Lazard. There's talk now, and I mean, obviously it's rumors, but they're talking that the Jets could be going after Hopkins. I mean, they're trying to give him weapons. They're trying to put weapons there for him, should I say?
I agree, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. The draft's in 2 weeks, so. But again, like just going back to what I said, I don't like Rodgers going into business for himself, so to speak, and going on the Pat McAfee show and saying I plan on playing for the New York Jets next year. Like, and I said it a month ago. That's all well and good, but you got no control over that, cuz
Exactly.
Like I don't know, just go back to your black hole retreat and maybe come out when some news hits. Anyway, moving forward, we got some other news coming out of Cincinnati that could play into, linger into the season. It's a sensitive subject, and the problem that I'm running into here, Joe Mixon's getting into some legal trouble. Reports coming out that he's charged with aggravated menacing, a misdemeanor. He's got a court date coming up. He's already been in trouble before for domestic violence. This guy's got a history of violence, pretty so to speak, domestically and other things. And quite frankly, the Bengals have a history of employing these guys, man. It just seems like every guy who gets arrested in the NFL plays for the Bengals. And the
NFC North.
Well, yeah. I just don't understand how a guy we say it all the time, like how do these pro athletes get DUIs and stuff like that? But what are these guys doing in their free time to get in trouble like this? And what do they think they have to do, or who do they think they have to be in their personal life that they can't just be happy making millions and millions of dollars a year and being a professional athlete? What do you guys think about this situation? Like, when is enough enough? I mean, Joe Mixon's one of the top running backs in the league. I mean, there's no question about that. But when is enough with somebody, and you run out of chances? I mean, Rick, you're a coach, man. I'm a coach too. Prophet, you've been around it long enough. Like, when do you run out of chances and say, listen, dude, you're not conducive for our environment. You're not the type of player that I want for our team culture. I don't care how good you are. There's as a coach, there's a certain amount of assholeness that I could put up with if you're a little bit of a better player. But at some point, you hit that breaking point and you're like, dude, you're not worth the aggravation. You're not worth the time. What do you guys think about it, man? Rick, let's start with you. What's going on with Joe Mixon? What's going on with the Bengals? Do you think he's out of time? Is it what do you think, man?
As far as him being out of time, I'm not sure. It's not that I'm not saying that as if I agree if they did give him another chance. It's just the fact of it's business. So I mean, like a Josh Gordon, yes, the situations are different, but because of the talent or because what they can bring to the organization or whatever the case may be, or what they have done for the organization, and which is in Joe Mixon's situation, I think they will handle it however they need to handle it. But I do feel like they need to make sure that they teach him some type of lesson, because like you said, coming out of college, he had the situation and they talked about it, handled it, but I feel like it was kind of brushed underneath the rug for a little bit and it kind of went away. This situation, from reading on it, you pulled a gun out on a woman. Why? I don't get it. For me,
and he's already had domestic issues before, Rick.
That's what I'm saying. The situation coming out of high school, I don't know. For me, having friends that
Did he punch a girl at Oklahoma?
Yeah, exactly. It was right before draft day or right before.
Yes, it was on camera.
Yeah,
it was on video.
So that's what I'm saying. I don't know, man. Me personally, I've seen it before where I've seen two situations where you might have guys who they have the money, they have the status, but they don't know how to separate themselves as far as being professional and leaving the hood where it is. Mm-hmm. And then I've seen some guys where they have the money, the status, the fame, and for whatever reason they feel like they're on top of the world, they're untouchable, and they don't think in either case.
Can we mention Deshaun Jackson? that was his knock for his whole career, was that he was tied up in gang-related issues and stuff like that. And that's why Chip Kelly got rid of him. But who knows, man? Like, why? And you made a great point. And, like, I don't want to dive into that too much, but, like, do you think you have to be street hard in the NFL? Like, dude, like, you don't.
No, you don't. Like I said, the guys that I know, it's just, well, they've got older and they've grown out of it. But like when they were younger, it was kind of like, it's not that they were trying to be something that they weren't. It was just like our area, like the way we were brought up.
You don't know how to leave that environment.
Exactly.
I mean, look at Aaron Hernandez.
Exactly. Like that's just,
Aaron
Hernandez had everything.
That's what we were used to.
And he couldn't. So, he enjoyed it. You could tell he enjoyed that lifestyle.
Exactly. Because that's what we're used to. And then you got to think like nobody's educating these guys in a lot of situations to understand how to separate themselves. You got to, some of your friends, you got to leave them alone. As far as the financial literacy, like a lot of people aren't being educated. So it's just like, oh, I'm 19, 21, 22. Here goes a check for whatever. Hey, figure it out. And some guys know how to figure it out, or they get the right people around them to figure it out. And some guys get the wrong people around them and they just get reckless and careless.
I agree with you, Rick. And I don't like agreeing with you as much as I am tonight, but I think we're on the same page on a lot of stuff. We're running, since BP isn't here, me and you we're on the agreement side. Prophet, man, what do you got? What do you got with this whole situation?
Well, I like to say that the best indicator of future behavior is relevant past behavior. And the fact that this happened again. Now, he was a freshman at Oklahoma when the incident at Oklahoma happened. He got kicked out of school. He sat out for 2 years. He couldn't get drafted. They were saying he was going to be like a top 5 pick, but he got kicked out of school, so he couldn't play. 2 years he sat out, and then he got drafted, and he lost millions and millions of dollars. Now they were talking about replacing him before this incident happened. I mean, there's a good possibility that he's going to lose millions and millions of more dollars now. Yeah. And it's like Ricky hit one of my points. It's like, and not saying that you have to change who you are, but when you get to a point to where, the whole I don't know. I mean, fortunately, I've never had to deal with living in inner city, but everything I hear is people are always looking to get out. And if you get a chance to get out because God gave you a gift, gave you an out there, but then you just bring that out, you bring that lifestyle with you. I mean, it was only a couple of days after this incident that his sister and his friend shot somebody right around the corner from their house. I mean,
that.
It's.
Wait, hold on. I'm getting something in my ear here. No. I'm crushing it. I'm killing it. Why? I got to bring him on? God. Guys, I just got word from the producer. I got to bring this guy on. I'm sorry. God dang.
Hey, you know right now. Let's do what happens tonight, all right? We're not messing around. Oh, Jesus.
Hey. Brandon, hey. Thanks for joining us, buddy.
God, this way.
So damn happy. So damn happy that you're able to join us tonight. Wow, yeah, you look great. How's it going in Arizona? I mean, Texas. I mean,
oh my God, guys, it's been going great. I heard you talking about running backs. I figured I'd jump on there, but the only thing that's running back right now is my hairline. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Trust me, I can tell. You know what I'm saying. Anyway, BP, welcome to the show. I know you're handling business out there in Arizona. Sorry, Texas. I mean, wherever you're at. I see some stuff on Twitter that people are raiding the Capitol in Arizona right now. Is that you and your friends, or
no?
Okay, all right. Anyway, let's dive in. What do you think about this Joe Mixon situation, man? Is this Is this the end for him, or what do we got going on? What's his deal, man?
I'll tell you what, it's the end of my fantasy team because I can't draft Joe Mixon no more. It's horrible. He's been in trouble in college. He's been in trouble in the NFL now. He's got a pretty big contract with the Cincinnati Bengals, and he's not getting any younger. So I happen to think that when you weigh those things out, it becomes a big problem.
I agree with you. One other thing that becomes a big problem is you go on a work trip, we have a podcast, and you forget to pack your microphone, buddy. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I turned the AC unit off here, and I can't believe that I haven't cut out already with this Sheraton Hotel internet that I got going on here.
At least you turn the AC off. Listen, I don't know if it's the end of the road for Joe Mixon. I think the Bengals have proven that they got a high tolerance to put up with a lot of BS in order to supplement that with success. Again, where is the scale of how much BS are you willing to put up with versus how much success are you going to have? And right now, the Bengals have had a lot. They've had a lot of BS and they've had a lot of success.
Yep, and don't forget, this is a team that is trying to go for a championship, right? Oh, sure. It's a team that's been fourth quarter drive away from winning the Super Bowl, and that's right there with Kansas City, that's right there with the Buffalo Bills, and now that they have this going on with one of their top players, hey, last time I checked, there was a lot of good running backs that's coming up in this draft, right?
Right.
Like it's not too difficult to go take a flyer on a young guy on a second or third round pick and maybe say goodbye to somebody who's not holding themselves accountable to, the NFL's personal conduct policy.
Sure.
See, my sources were telling me that they were looking to draft a running back. This was before the story came out. I thought the story was recent that it's all happened. This happened before the Buffalo game, the Buffalo playoff game.
Well, the event happened. It all just came out recently.
Yeah, right. But so my sources were hearing that, they might be looking to draft a running back, and guess what? That could be why.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it makes sense.
Anyway, we're moving forward here. That's the news and notes that have been happening kind of over the past 2 weeks that we've been gone. There's some stuff out there like Jeff Okudah got traded, but who wants to deal with that boring stuff? But
Devin White wants out of Tampa too. That's another one.
Yeah, Devin White does want out of Tampa. Hey, BP, take your hat off for now. All right, there's a new host tonight, and you follow my lead, okay? Anyway, we're going to run into...
Drew, I just wanted to say you guys are doing a phenomenal job. I got to try to get this DeAndre Hopkins deal done, even though I'm just trying to get him out of the NFC West, to be honest with you. Yeah. You're doing a great job, guys. I appreciate it. I'm going to watch the rest of the show. I do want to give one shout-out, and I didn't want to wait till the hot shot of the week to do it. My father's birthday's tomorrow, and I wanted to say happy birthday, Dad. I love you. I miss you. I appreciate you. I'm probably going to jump on the phone after I get done watching the show. You guys are crushing it. I love you guys, and I appreciate you, and I can't wait to be back next week. Drew,
happy birthday.
All right, BP. Birthday,
man.
Happy birthday, Mr. Peeves. Soon, and we'll be back next week, man.
For sure. All right. See you guys. I appreciate you.
All right, BP.
Anyway, back to regularly scheduled programming.
True.
I hope we don't have any more interruptions like that tonight.
Yeah, what the? Did you see that guy's friggin' shirt?
What about his hair?
Holy crap!
He looked like
talk about a receding hairline. Holy smokes! You know what I'm saying?
Man.
You know what I'm saying, Prophet? He ain't nothing like the old chip off the old block here.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Anyway, we're moving on here. We got we got more NFL to talk about. We're 2 weeks away from the draft. Obviously, our show has been centered around the draft in recent weeks. We're not going to dive into the whole, couple things that we've been doing the past few weeks where we're dissecting every player. Quite frankly, we're going to talk a little bit about tonight about, the guys down in the trenches, the interior linemen, the front seven, the offensive linemen, the defensive linemen, but we're not going to dive into specific players per se. But I do want to start off. Draft season is always a fun time. I don't know about you guys, but we always made it a point, when I was a little bit younger to kind of get together with the boys. You make a mock draft and you throw a few back and you watch the draft. I love the fact that they have it on Thursday nights now. I think it adds a new element to to the draft itself. I just want to talk about, before we get into the meat and potatoes of the interior lineman aspect of it, what kind of memories or draft day memories stand out to you guys, from watching? Could be, from whatever era, but we all watched the draft. There's no disputing that, but there's got to be a memory that stands out to your mind that you're like, wow, I can't believe that happened, or it's something that just kind of sticks out to you. Let's go to Prophet first. Prophet, what do you got for draft night moment or memory, whatever you got?
Oh, I've actually got a couple of different players, two different setups. Guys falling. Aaron Rodgers was slated to be a top pick, and he dropped down to 24. But my favorite guy that fell was Johnny Football. I mean, every time a pick was made, they showed put the camera on him, and he was on like he looked like he wanted to smoke 3 bones after that night was over. That was great.
Yeah.
My biggest, I don't know the terminology for it, but being upset about it was John Elway. And I said this earlier to you, Slick. You've got this God-given talent, and yet you're going to be the number 1 pick in the draft, but yet you've got the balls to turn around and tell that team that you draft me, I'm not playing for you.
Yep.
I mean, if you're that freaking good, go to that team and make them better.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
the same thing happened with
Eli Manning
too. Right. Yeah, Eli Manning did the same thing. I like Eli because he's funny, but like the same thing happened
about
with him
15 years later.
Yeah.
John Elway, in my mind, is probably one of the most overrated quarterbacks that people talk about. You look at his numbers. He won 2 Super Bowls, but they were the last 2 years of his career. And
yeah, that's true.
Up until year 10 of his career, he had a worse TD to interception ratio. I mean, he didn't start playing ball until later on in his career, and yeah, I don't know. That just aggravates me. I only wish I had the talent that some of these guys have, and to turn around and say, "Oh well, oh my God, I'm not playing for you if you draft me." And yes, Eli did it too, and San Diego still drafted him, but they traded him a half hour later.
Yeah. I mean, that was a night I think that kind of stands out in a lot of people's minds. But Ricky, what do you got, man? What do you remember, particular incident remember from a draft night that stands out to you?
For me, I got a couple as well. The first one was a hometown guy, Peter Ward. When he got drafted in 2000, went 4th overall. Like, just for our area, for our county, just like it meant a lot to everyone around here, just because, like I said, he was a hometown guy. As a kid, just watching him play in high school, doing what he did at Florida State, it was one of them situations where it was like, dang, like if Pete can make it, like I can make it type deal. And he went high, which if he wouldn't have gotten to that trouble, he probably would have went 1st or 2nd. Mm-hmm. The second two, they're kind of in together, but they're two situations. Is when 2 close friends of mine, Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie and Mike Jenkins, they both got drafted 1st round the same day. I was actually at Mike's draft party. So fact that
that's awesome.
We were able to like share that moment, but at the same time we're watching on TV and we see Dominic get drafted, I think like 18th pick 1st round. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of like all of us grew up together to be able to share those type moments with kids, with guys that I grew up with. It was crazy to me. Like it was.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Being at somebody's draft party when they're getting drafted, that's pretty cool, man. The one that stands out to me, I would say, goes back to 2016. I remember sitting at the TGI Fridays. I think my wife was sitting up in a booth up top. I can't remember the exact scenario, but she was having like a girls' night or something. and I was sitting at the bar by myself, just throwing a couple back, watching a draft, and I watched the Philadelphia Eagles at the number 2 overall pick draft Carson Wentz, and I remember saying, "What the?" And the whole bar was going nuts, and and I say, "What are you guys doing? This guy is terrible." And everybody said he swore he was the second coming and thought he was awesome and thought he was this and that. And from draft night, I said that this guy was never going to make it, and he didn't pan out. I know, did he sign somewhere, or they're talking about him signing? Where'd he go?
No, I haven't seen anything him sign.
I thought he signed somewhere as a backup. Yeah, Washington released him. I thought he signed somewhere as a backup. I can't remember, but my biggest draft, one of the biggest, and I think it had to do with my wife being, well, she wasn't my wife at the time, but we were watching the draft together. It was just fun, and then just being surrounded by Eagles fans that were completely oblivious to how bad Carson Wentz actually is, and then just me being like, dude, this guy is going to be absolute trash for you, and it turned out to be true. That was probably a draft moment that sticks out for me. Larry chiming in. Most recently was when the Bears jumped up and took Fields. It's paying off for him. I mean, I time will tell, but he's definitely electric player. So,
I gotta switch gears here real quick, Slinger. Okay,
go ahead.
You were talking about the Eagles fans. Well, I want to talk about the Philly fans in general. Okay, when I was living up north, and we go to the games, I used to love going to Dollar Dog Night at the stadium, and they had a Dollar Dog Night last night. They sold 58,000 freaking hot dogs, and they had a monster food fight in the stadium. People were throwing hot dogs at each other all over the stadium.
I didn't see that.
Mustard, relish, ketchup, the whole nine. I mean, that's Philadelphia fans for you.
That goes back to promoting bad behavior that we talked about earlier in the show. I bet you it was a bunch of young punks that were doing it. So anyway, moving on. We talked about previous weeks. We talked about quarterbacks. We talked about the receiver position. Tonight, it's not a sexy position. It's not a fun position to talk about. All right, we're talking about the most boring position of them all. What is it? We're keeping it PG here, guys. I'm talking about offensive and defensive line. That's the most boring position that we could talk about, but maybe one of the most important positions, if not the most important position. And we're not, like I said, we're not diving into specific players. We're not doing a list, but I do want to ask you guys, over the past few years in recent memory, who kind of stands out to you from an interior lineman standpoint, whether it's a defensive or offensive lineman who was an absolute game changer up front, whether, like I said, whether offensive or defensive lineman? Prophet, will go to you first. In recent memory, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years. We'll keep it to that.
Well, okay, and I'll throw one even further back. I mean, I think this kid Hutchinson is actually going to be a game changer in the upcoming year. But for the first couple of years, Myles Garrett in the league. I mean, he was a beast. He could change your offense. I went back further with the no line pick. A guy that the older people will know him. They were saying that he was the absolute best offensive lineman coming out of college ever. Tony Mandarich. He played for Michigan State. He was 6'6", 330 pounds. He was jacked. He was all roided up. That was in the year where it was okay to do roids in college, but not in pros. He got drafted number 2 by the Green Bay Packers, and he lost like 30 pounds when he got into camp because he wasn't able to do the roids, and he never amounted to anything. the top five, the four other guys in that draft class in the top five are all in the Hall of Fame. He
Wow.
unfortunately is in the Hall of Shame.
Wow. And what year was that roughly?
That was 1989.
Oh,
I
it wasn't
believe
in
it was.
1900s. That's good. 1989.
Yeah, 89.
I said recently, Prophet. You
I
don't
know.
follow instructions very well.
Well,
I
that's
guess.
why I gave you Hutchinson and Garrett.
All right. Yeah, true. Okay. I'll accept it. Ricky, what do you got? Interior lineman, whether it's offensive or defensive lineman, who's made the most impact in recent history?
I like how you made that real specific.
Capital R, capital A, capital.
Oh, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. I can't imagine Ricky's going back to the 70s or the 80s, though.
Nah. So I chose D lineman. I got both of the Bosa brothers, Nick and what's the other Bosa name? Joey Bosa.
Nick and Joe. Yeah.
Yeah, I got both of those guys. I also chose Myles Garrett with Prophet and Chase Young before he messed up his knee.
Yes. Who could forget about that? Chase Young was huge coming out of college. Yeah. And Joey Bosa was probably one of the biggest defensive line names coming out in recent memory. What about, and this isn't my pick, but what about Jadeveon Clowney? Coming out of college, man, everybody wanted this guy. You get that hit from Michigan where he plows that running back in the backfield and makes him fumble and picks up the fumble with the other hand, man. Yeah. People were salivating over Jadeveon Clowney, and he's had a nice little career over the past. I mean, his career is either done or winding down now. I'm not sure, but he was never the guy he was in college. But my pick would be a little off the wall because the team didn't have much success, but the player did. And my pick would be Joe Thomas. All right. Joe Thomas was an offensive tackle for the Cleveland Browns for 11 seasons, drafted at 3rd overall out of the University of Wisconsin. And Joe Thomas was an all-pro, made the Pro Bowl in every single season that he was in the NFL. He didn't miss a snap until the 2017 season, which was his final season in the NFL. You talk about an absolute Iron Man. And I remember him coming out of college. He was a huge, huge offensive line prospect. And obviously to take him number 3 overall. And how often do we hear about these draft picks that don't hit? He was one that hit. Now, granted, the Browns didn't have the success that they wanted to, but you talk about an absolute Iron Man. Joe Thomas was the epitome of an Iron Man, and he anchored that offensive line from day one. And it goes, like I said, he was a Pro Bowler every year that he was in the league. So I think that was a pretty impressive feat. And kind of
what year did he get drafted?
He was drafted in 2007.
Okay, so he's more recent. I thought it was like 90s. I was going to say Orlando Pace was another O-line.
Orlando Pace was he was Ohio State, right?
Yeah, first pick.
He was a huge draft pick coming out too. But like I said, it's not a sexy conversation. Offensive line is not a sexy position, but the reason why they make movies about them called The Blind Side, right? It's the guys to protect your most prized possession.
Exactly.
And you gotta value it. You gotta value it.
Joe Thomas never wanted to leave Cleveland either. I mean, he was a free agent a couple times, and he signed back with Cleveland. He wanted to stay there.
How often do you see that where a guy's plays for the same team for his entire career? It doesn't happen very often.
You never see that often.
Before moving on to the next topic, I just want to give a personal shout out for a prospect who's hoping to get drafted in a couple weeks. I work with his aunt, local boy, Rutgers offensive line prospect, J.D. Dorenzo. All right, this guy's 6'4". He transferred from Sacred Heart. Big time offensive line prospect, hoping to get drafted. She comes in. I work with his aunt. She comes in every day, man. She tells me, hey, so-and-so reached out to JD and we're real excited about it. Do you think that's a good team? Blah, blah, blah. And she's so excited about the possibility of this happening and the whole process of it. And he had his pro day at Rutgers the other day. Again, JD Dorenzo from Rutgers. He didn't do the bench because he's dealing with a shoulder, but he ran a 7.25 in the 3-cone drill, which would have been first among offensive linemen in the combine. He wasn't at the combine. He ran a 4.51 short shuttle, which would have been second among all offensive linemen at the combine. He jumped a 33.5 vertical, which would have been third overall amongst all offensive linemen in the combine. He ran a 5.2 40, which at 6'4", 200 or 310 pounds is pretty damn good. And he did a 9.2 broad jump, which was 10th amongst all offensive linemen in the combine. Don't know where this guy's going to end up. The numbers are there. The size is there. Don't know where he's going to end up, but it's a pretty cool homebound story. JD Dorenzo, man, pulling for you. Best of luck to you on draft night in a couple weeks, and you got a couple friends here on the Backyard Blitz rooting for you. That's for sure.
Good luck.
We're wrapping up here, man. We're ready to get moving, but we got one more thing to talk about before we get into our hot shot segment. Who is the most critical team, or I'm sorry, who's got the most to lose on moving forward here on draft night? What team needs to hit on their draft picks? And let's talk about that for a couple minutes before we wrap it up here. Free agency has been hot. There's a lot of moves going on. The draft is where you could potentially get your next all-pro player, and it happens for a lot of teams. Who needs to hit and who cannot miss with this draft, whether it's the first pick or whether it's all their picks combined? What team needs to make the most impact draft night? Prophet, we'll start with you.
Well, starting with me. Okay, good. This team, pending upon how their draft goes, I see them, and you heard it first here, definitely winning the NFC South. I mean, the AFC South next year, and potentially getting to the conference game. The Houston Texans, they're missing a couple of pieces. They've got 13 draft picks this year, 6 in the first 100.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And
that's crazy.
I mean, they got Dameon Pierce and Devin Singletary. They got Dalton Schultz they picked up at tight end. They picked up Robert Woods. We agree, Slick, he's a 2. but they also have John Mechie coming back, who did not play last year.
Yeah, he was leukemia?
Yeah, and he will be ready for this season, they're saying.
Wow, good for him.
And they got the number 2 pick. If Carolina does not take Bryce Young, they'll be taking Bryce Young. I'm hoping that they get Bryce Young because I think Bryce Young is a little bit more ready to start now than Stroud is. They get a quarterback and a receiver with the first 12 picks. They're going to be tough to beat next year. They got a new coach. Their defense is solid, and they play in the AFC South, which is, take Jacksonville, except for Jacksonville, there's really not a whole lot there.
Prophet's been high on the Texans' potential for a while. Yeah. So I'd be curious to see how it plays out, because if we turn around in a couple months and the Texans are sitting here at 10-6 or something like that, it'll be fun to go back on this and be like, he called it back in March, because you've been saying it for a while. Ricky, who do you got, man? Who needs to hit in this draft here?
I feel like it needs to be the Bears. Don't get me wrong; they did make some good moves in free agency, but I just feel like they just were missing so many bodies, like so much stuff, offensively and defensively, to where free agency just isn't enough. I feel like they need to take full advantage of all their draft picks and make sure that they're smart about it and get guys that are willing to able to come in and kind of like affect the team like immediately.
Now, right. Affect the team now. And if you're gonna, tie your chariot to Fields. Surround the guy would help. And I don't know. Did we talked about a couple big time O-line free agency prospects? Did they wind up getting one? I'm not sure. But like,
did they? I think they might have got one. I don't think they got the biggest.
They might have got one of the two.
I think they got one.
I can't remember. But if you're gonna, like you said, if you're gonna get behind Fields and he's gonna be your guy for the future, surround him, protect him first of all, and then surround him with some weapons so he's not doing it all himself in the future. Excuse me. My team that can't miss, and it's a little bit of a homer pick, is the Eagles. All right, the Eagles have had a pretty rough offseason in this area. They lost a lot of guys. A lot of fans are questioning the moves that they've made. They got the 10th overall draft pick after after being in the Super Bowl. People were expecting a lot. They got a lot of holes to fill. If this isn't a sexy pick for the Eagles fan base, you're going to see a lot of unhappy people, and I think that the Eagles got a lot of proof with this pick. I'm not sure what's going on with the offseason moves and the offseason decisions, but they got a lot of making up to do, I think. And Roseman's been known to make it happen on draft night, so we'll see what happens. But I think the Eagles got a lot to prove in 2 weeks.
I agree.
I'm dying. We're wrapping up the show. My voice is catching up to me. We did it. We did it, boys. We made it through,
guys.
We made it through. We didn't have any lagging, which I was afraid of. But we got to go into our hot shot segment here. And hold on 1 second. Let me see if I can get it. Brandon taught me how to do it. Yes, sir. Let's go. Profit. We'll start with you. Who's your hot shot of the week?
You starting with me, you said?
Yes.
Kid Rock. Enough said.
Oh, my God.
Kid Rock.
Now we're canceled. Jesus Christ.
He said we're canceled.
Brandon's gone 1 week, and we're gonna get a show canceled. Ricky, who you got, man?
Since we didn't have a show last week, mine goes to the LSU women's basketball team. I mean, despite all the other negative stuff that's been going on with all that whole situation, they're still champions. Like, respect due to everything that they overcame, and they made it happen.
That's a good one. I'm with you there. I think it was, like I said, kind of blown out of proportion by the media. Do we have a visitor for the hot shot segment? No, we're good. Hey, my hot shot of the week, and you guys might see it, and I'm going to not use names for privacy purposes, but it might come across if you're, on social media, TikTok. There's a video out there of a young high school student making a TikTok video. He's in the hallway, and he gets approached semi-aggressively by a school police officer, and you think that this video is going to go a different way, where the police officer might, take his phone or kick him out or whatever. The teen is dancing, he's having a good time. The police officer comes up behind him, puts his arm around the teen, and starts dancing with him and throwing up signs and dancing with him and having a good time. This video has got over 3 million views. All right, it just got reposted by Barstool Sports. If you go on the Barstool Sports TikTok page and scroll down a little bit, you'll be able to find the video. The only reason I mention it is because it happened in my high school. The police officer is one of my partners at the school.
What's up.
It went viral. It's bridging the gap. It's just like it's kind of, putting an end to the discussion of, all these police officers in the schools, or, what are they good for, stuff like that, dude. It goes to prove that people do form positive relationships and stuff like that. It's not always what you think. And it was funny reading through all the comments. Like, everybody's like, I thought this was going to go a whole different way. Like, I thought this was going to go differently. Like, cop is awesome, blah, blah, blah. And, I'm proud to say that the cop is one of my partners at work, man. So, like I said, I'm going to withhold names for privacy reasons, because it's a high school. But if you go on the Barstool Sports TikTok. You'll be able to see the video. It's pretty cool. Shout out Mr. Peebler, happy birthday. Shout out Brandon. Congrats on the new position. We're looking forward to having you back. I can't keep doing this every week, man. So you need to come back quick. All right, you need to come back.
We need them back.
You need to come back in a hurry.
We got
it done, though, man. We got it done. Listen,
your students are gonna hate you.
We got it done. We didn't lag, and we're good, man. We're back next week. We got our draft. We got our mock draft challenge. $100 to the winner. We'll talk about it more next week. Thank you.
Good night, all.